What's up, y'all? We're gonna do a quick little story time. I'm starting a little later today. So today, well, all right. So last night I was talking to y'all. I was talking to y'all about this position and that position in Maple Grove. Now, it turns out, I guess the brother really didn't want it or whatever like that. But now, his idea of hybrid and remote, unless you're staying towards the business analyst route, if you trying to do tech support, I was gonna let him know, but I figured, well, I just let him find out. You're not gonna find as many remote roles with that skill set. From what I've seen from his resume, you're not gonna find it that often. I'm not finding it my damn self to a certain degree. So, and I got way more experience, but you might find some help desk. I don't know what rate he was making or whatever, he never specified, but I guess he was kind of open. So now you might be able to find some remote help desk or some stuff like that. You might be able to find something like that. But a lot of those positions now, man, they having them Indians do it. I'm just gonna tell y'all flat out. They having them Indians do half of that stuff most of the time. But I wanted to have a little quick story time about a candid conversation with a younger white fella. We were talking about yesterday, and he comes from Texas. Now, this has been something that there's been articles about, and people have said this about my town forever. It's something I very well know about. He was talking about the culture, how people only kind of hang out with their friends or whatever. I thought he was from here or from the Midwest. No, he's from Texas. And I said, you ain't got no accent or whatever. He said, man, most people from Dallas ain't got no accent like that. That's mainly West Texas. So he basically told me it's harder to find friends because of the culture. And not only that, and this is how I know he's telling the truth. He said, man, people fake as hell. He said the passive aggressive. He said, yeah. I was like, yeah. The passive aggressiveness here is out of this world. He said, you really don't meet people for who they are. He said, this Minnesota nice thing, and he's from Texas. When I drove Uber, this white lady from Atlanta was saying the same thing. She said, man, what's up with you people here? And I said, you people, what you mean? She said, man, y'all got it bad. I said, oh, okay, I know what she's talking about. She said, y'all got it bad. This shit's so damn fake and phony. She said, and people want to sweep things. He was telling me, he said, folks want to sweep things under the rug, and the issue don't never get resolved. I said, that's the culture here. Don't get that Minnesota nice twisted. That's the damn culture. I knew exactly what he was talking about. Exactly. He didn't have to sell me on it. He didn't have to say, well, I don't know what's going on and all this here. He didn't have to sell me on that. I knew exactly what he was talking about. And guess what? He was right. He was damn right. And so he said, why are folks like that? He said the people here are mean. And so when he told me he was from the South, we were having this discussion, and it brought me back to what my dad said about the North and the South. And he told me that people will ask him randomly, white people, when they hear he's from Texas. He said he don't like telling people he's from Texas all the time because they'll ask him, oh, are you racist? And I told you the North, they the worst ones. We were going through a map, and he was pointing out all the places. Iowa, Indiana, all these places. And I thought to myself, when he put he said the Midwest, and then we were talking about California, he said these states is a trip. And I thought in the back of my head, that's where a lot of the sundown towns were. That passive aggressive ass mentality. Now, he said he likes Milwaukee. he likes Milwaukee. But it kind of brought me back to the culture here. Yeah, a lot of people, he said, man, they all got their high school friends. This isn't cap we're talking about. This has been correlated through several different outlets. For one, a Minnesota native myself. So what I say, whatever I say is law. Anything I say about the state's law, that ain't up for debate. That's just something, because you get folks from out of town to say the same shit. Something that I've been saying about my town for forever. But I grew up here, so I know the get down. We were talking about how, like, I was telling them a story about the guy that said everybody below the Mason-Dixon line is slow. But he's a damn customer service rep at 50 years old. And I told the white guy during that time when I was working at deployment, I said, well, you know, all of my family members, a lot of them are doctors and engineers. They in the South. So, and that's where they grew up. So, you know, there you go right there with that. And, you know, the lady from Atlanta, she correlated it. I correlated it. So I'm not going to lie about it. Articles have recorded. People here, and he was talking about how the money's good, but the tax is too high. There's been several articles of talent. Amazon is a big thing. Remember, I talked about that in my second book. Amazon said there ain't enough damn talent in Minnesota. That's why they didn't put the headquarters here for far as technology. And Genesis 10 had co-signed that, like, yeah, you know, Amazon don't really want to come here. You know why they don't want to come here? Because they know the talent don't want to come here. Because people don't like the damn culture. The culture is so damn ass backwards and passive aggressive that people have it hard. They have a hard time coming here and making genuine friends. You get folks from New York and folks from the South that are a little bit more upfront. They don't want to come here because they get over here and they get these passive aggressive liberal white folk and they can't really blend in. There's, you know, they might have a few friends here and there. And they talked about this in Star Tribune. They talked about this in several media outlets. These are people, not just black folk. Black folks, we gonna always get it the worst. But these are other people that have come here and said, what the fuck is wrong with these damn people here? It's the culture. They call it Minnesota nice. That's not the case. You might have to go out to rural areas maybe. You see what I'm saying? Where people have been there for forever or whatever the case may be. Where maybe the folks are maybe a little more conservative. They might be, you know, the conversations you have in the city, you might not have out in the country. I'm just telling you. Especially going into what they call the heartland. When you go into them backwoods in Wisconsin, I'm talking about outside the city and stuff like that. You're probably going to see a lot more Trump signs. Going to be a lot more so-called conservative whites or whatever. I found it easier conversating with them much more than these white liberals here. That's just me. These folks, they don't meet you where they are. Them folks, you meeting them where they are. So they way out in the heartland, they might have their little Trump sign. They ain't got a damn thing to hide, and they not gonna bite their tongue for shit. They're not gonna do it. Here, they will bite your tongue and stab you in the back. That's the culture. That's the Minneapolis. That's the Twin Cities culture. Let's just be honest. That's Minnesota culture. They say Minnesota nice. That's Minnesota culture. That's what it is. Don't nobody want to offend nobody. Don't nobody want to what and I told him, he said, why are folks like that here? I said, they'll save face rather than tell you like it is and get the issue resolved. I said, because in their mind, especially in the workplace, I met this sister at Medtronic. She had the same issue. This sister was talking about she been there 10, 15 years. They got their little enclave. So basically, I was like, hey, I said, have you ever seen people in the workplace where they got their little enclave and they ain't trying to let you in? If you're not in that group, he's like, yeah. I said, yeah, that's it. It permeates into the workplace and the work fabric as well. So what do you do? Or somebody would say, well, what do you do in that situation? Don't be passive aggressive. Because it's not going to work. You could try to play the game and be passive, but they're so damn passive, it gets to the point where it becomes a web of lies. Folks get the lying so damn much. Folks get the lying so damn much that when you have the conversation, and see, that's when you have an environment and a culture like that, when you have a city or a state that works like that, what happens is it actually brings issues. The social society actually, it's a burden to the social society. It's really truly a burden to the social society because everybody is operating like, well, nothing's going on. Because you can't have the conversation. And another thing what people do is, what they'll do is they'll say something, they won't say it to you, they will say it to someone else. They will say it to someone else, and then it gets back to you. The same situation that y'all had, whatever issue it was, it doesn't go directly to you. It goes to someone else. That person pulls you to the side and tells you what they said, and then now the situation looks funny style. Same situation that I had that was going on at work. The issue is, well, he needs to be doing all these tasks. Then assign the tasks. Well, we don't have the tasks. We don't have anything to do. Okay, well, I'm going to sit there and play on my fucking phone. And I'm not going to ask you for more tasks, because you said ain't no more tasks. I'm going to do what a contractor does. I'm going to do my work, and I'm going to chill somewhere in the corner. I'm not going to ask for no more work, because when I did that before, I was ostracized. Right? That's Minnesota nice. I asked for it before. You got one person complaining. Let me see, what bus is that? That's the 54. It looks like the 50. I asked for work before. I told y'all that story. I asked for work before because this person, they didn't feel like they had help, or they had all these little family problems or whatever they got going on bringing to the job. And I'm like, all right, let me lift the load for you. And he showed his ass. So now you don't get that from me again. You got to show me. You show me one time who you are. You don't get that from me again. So now y'all go back and say, well, he doesn't have enough work. Give me the work. Well, we can't give it to you. Okay, well, shit. I'm about to chill and do exactly what everybody else. Here's another example. Everyone else could kind of sit and talk about video games and all this bullshit for hours. I don't say anything. I'm kind of sitting off and I'm kind of doing my thing. I might cruise the net. I'm doing the same thing y'all are doing. I'm just not socializing. But you won't say that. And you know you can't say that because that doesn't look good. So instead of saying, well, you need to talk more, which I'm not going to do. I'm not going to say any more than I need to say. And you can't penalize me for that. That's the environment. So it kind of really brought me to that Law and Order North-South thing. And when you look at these issues, specifically that a lot of black folks deal with in these cultures, most black folks have more complaints up here than anywhere else. Most people I met, I'm going to tell you another little story about this mixed chick. Do you remember the story where I was telling you about the little mixed chick where she had the jive turkey mama? Her mama, she had what I call the N-word mama. She had a jive turkey Becky mama, little N-word Becky. And she was from California. And I was playing that Soldier Life Mentality by Soulja Slim. And she got all butthurt about it because her mama white. Now, her mama was the so-called Catch Me Outside Sarah. married a black dude. The dude must have left, whatever the case may be. So she's catch me outside, N-word Karen or N-word Sarah. But her daughter adopts the eyes through a white woman. But this is a ghetto, this is a so-called ratchet, loudmouth white woman that adopts the underbelly little, the underbelly stereotype of hood rat, black woman society. She leans towards that, right? So she sounds like a hood rat, but thinks like a white woman. You see what I'm saying? But her daughter sounds like a white girl, and she's offended by Soulja Slim's Soulja Life Mentality. If y'all ever heard that song Soulja Life Mentality, he giving it to him raw. She's like, oh, he's you know what I'm saying? She's like, oh, this is racial or whatever, because he's getting on the police and he was calling out white supremacists on the song. So I knew we really couldn't hang out too much longer. But then every now and then she wanted to kind of get a little black. So I said, okay, she's confused. We can't, I can't tap that no more. This ain't gonna work. But she was telling me a story about, because she was living in California and she ended up by St. Cloud, Minnesota. Because I met her online. This was like the MySpace days or something like that. Or I met her. So, or it might have been around, was that maybe around like this MySpace days? So we was hanging out tough. She'd come into town. So now she was telling me the first time she got her called a nigga was in Minnesota, not California. She was from like not Southern California. She ain't acting like a Southern California girl. She was from Northern California. She wasn't from Oakland. No. So the first time she got called a nigga was coming up here. You dig? So that kind of tells you a lot. When I use that term, Dred Scott North, I was not playing around. That should tell you a lot. That should tell you everything you need to know. But yeah, we were having this discussion about, the taxes and things of that nature. And, I just thought it was very interesting that he said that, because he just brought it about the blue. He said, man, the culture, he said, it's, I mentioned passive aggressive, and that's when he started lighting up, because he wasn't really going to open up about it until, because he didn't think I was from here, but he wasn't going to open up about it until I started talking about the passive aggressive. And I said, man, it goes further. If I don't keep it 100 with you and I sweep it under the rug, they feel like they got a job. Because I got something I could hide, something I could use. So if there's an issue, like he said, the issue never gets resolved, I could use that. Chaos brings opportunity. I've told y'all that. I can say, you did something wrong, and not really tell you did something wrong, but now I have the solution. So I'm not trying to fix the problem. That gives me a job. If there's an issue that needs to be resolved and we're supposed to fix this, if I bury it, that's something that I could go do. And then I could come back and say, you did something wrong. You didn't resolve the issue. We have this system that needs to be resolved, and we need to talk about this problem. But if we don't fix it right now, someone has a job.